Welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV, the live TV show all about the legal aspects of your business. We've designed this TV show to educate you in simple to understand plain English ways for complex legal terms, to help you understand why you undertake certain legal aspects of your business, and to help you develop a plan for the future success of your business. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? And that is the average time that it takes for a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. Have you ever wanted to get legal advice but didn't understand what was going on? And do you feel like there's a divide between lawyers and their clients? If that's so, then this TV show is for you. We've designed the show to empower you and your business with the knowledge and tools to help ensure that those problems that so many businesses encounter don't happen to you. Business Legal Lifecycle TV delivers a twice-weekly show focusing on the legal aspects of your business. At lunchtime on Mondays, we present Fast Fix Monday, a quick 5 to 10 minute show to give you some actionable steps to consider for this week in your business. And at lunchtime on Wednesdays, we present our in-depth show. It's generally between 30 minutes to an hour to go through the complicated legal aspects of your business in a simple to understand and plain English way. That can be through educational pieces or interviews with experts in the fields. We welcome you to Business Legal Lifecycle TV, and here's our show. Hi everyone, Jeremy Stretton here. I'm flying solo today. Craig Mason is away on holidays. Thank you for watching this Facebook Live TV show, Business Legal Lifecycle TV. We're going to be discussing copyrights and trademarks in today's episode. So, as always, if you've got any questions, please ask them on the Facebook comments. I have an iPad here with the comments ready to come up if you do have any questions. And I'm happy to go through and answer any questions. And if you're watching this on the replay, then please feel free to ask questions, and we'll respond to them as quickly as we can. So just before we start, anyone who's watching from the beginning, and again, if you're watching the live show, we'll see that there's a code word. If you can wait around to the end, we'll be able to tell you what that code word will involve you if you do some certain stuff. And as a thank you for watching the show. So today's show is our first one in September, our first in-depth show in September about intellectual property. And so that's phase 5 of the Business Legal Lifecycle. So what I thought I might do is just bring up the Business Legal Lifecycle image, and you'll see that there's phase 5. Protecting intellectual property comes in at phase 5, and the reason that it comes in now is that what we've found is that whilst it's probably most other lawyers will say you've got to protect your intellectual property straight away early on in your business, from a practical point of view, it's very difficult for people to actually do that. So what we've done is made it a little bit more practical about when you should be actually looking at protecting your IP. And so that's really after you have you've got an initial business set up, you've had your idea, you've gone through startup, which is what last month's topic was about. Then you've gone through and you've got some clients, because there's no point in protecting IP unless you've got a business that's worth protecting. Then you've got to have some employees to make sure that it's scalable. And finally, you get up to protecting intellectual property. So I'll talk today specifically about copyrights and trademarks. But yeah, there'll be other topics and other talks that we'll do as we go through this month. So now, if you just bear with me, I'll just transition over to the slides. All right, so yeah, as I said, the topic today is copyrights and trademarks. Phase 5, protecting intellectual property. That's another copy of the Business Legal Lifecycle. It's in the slides. And the talking points today, yeah, copyright and trademarks. So the first question, and probably the most confusing part about this whole exercise, is what is copyright? There are a lot of misconception over what copyright actually means and what it entitles for you. So copyright is basically the ownership in creative works. Now, what does that mean? That means that if you create something like a book, or you write an article, you create music, you create some other design, then you have copyright owning that material. Now, copyright is not something that has to be registered anywhere. It's automatically created upon the creation of the work. So to give you an example of that, my book, Business Leader Lifecycle, which anyone who's watching is probably aware of if you have a look at our page, the actual words in here are copyrighted to me because I wrote the book. But that doesn't copyright the idea behind the Business Leader Lifecycle to me personally. That copyright is to another entity that Craig and I own that actually owns the ideas behind it. So copyright's a funny little beast, and it's something that's often missed. There's a lot of misconception about what you actually have and what actually copyright means. So let me go into infringement of copyright. So I think the best way to look at these things is with an example. So infringement of copyright would be, and for anyone who's done university, they know that the infringement could be taking other people's ideas. Plagiarism is infringement of copyright. But to give you an idea, there's a case in New Zealand where there was copyrighted works over a song for an election campaign, and the political party says that no, that wasn't. We didn't steal that idea from someone else. That's not copyrighted material. That's something that was their own creation. And that's one of the real big problems with copyright, is that it is protecting creative works. So you've got to be able to show that something that was actually created was copyright material. So what is that? It's a bit of a how long is a piece of string thing, and it's a great little answer. It depends. So infringement is a funny beast, and you need to be very cautious of it. If you think that something you've created might have been infringed by someone else, then get some advice. Get someone, a lawyer who knows what they're talking about, to do a bit of an analysis of whether or not your copyright has been infringed. Because if it hasn't been, then it's a very costly process to go through. But if it has been, then it's well worthwhile protecting. So infringement's a very important part of copyright. So the last one is protection. This is not copyright, fairly brief topic, but protection is all about what you do to actually protect the copyright. And so what do people do? Well, you need to basically have your copyright protected with a copyright symbol on it, and basically keep on top of what other people are doing to make sure that they're not breaching your copyright. No one else is going to tell you if someone else has breached copyright, but if you're the one who's concerned that your copyright's been breached, then you need to stay on top of it and find out about it. So copyright is an interesting area that does require you to think about the different things that you can protect and what you should do to protect it. But for today's show, I really wanted to spend the majority of my time on trademarks, and specifically on the difference between registering a trademark and just any old trademark. So people often get confused, and I think lawyers are a little bit to be blamed for this, that there's a difference between a registered trademark and a trademark, and we don't probably explain that as well as we should. A trademark is literally the business and the identity of a business that is out there in the marketplace. So in any day, the stats show that we would see somewhere between 4,000 to 10,000 different trademarks and advertisements in any day. That's a lot. So you've got to decide whether or not you want to actually register that trademark. So what a registered trademark does is gives you protection over that intellectual property for 10 years. Now, the registration process, which I'll go through a bit later, is a bit of a long and convoluted process, although it has been simplified in recent terms. But understanding what a trademark is and what registering a trademark actually gives you is very important. So it might be a corporate logo, it might be a jingle that you use in an advertisement, it might be the name of a symbol that's painted on the side of the truck. They're all trademarks. So a trademark can be a word, a phrase, can be a trademark, a letter, a number, a logo, a picture, an aspect of packaging can also be that, or a combination of all those together. Now, so a trademark can be all those things, and it's not, there's no definitive answer that says that's a trademark and that's not a trademark, but you'll know it when you see it. It's a mark that identifies a business or a product in a unique way to everything else in business. So what is registration? As I said before, you can have an unregistered trademark. You can also have a registered trademark. So in Australia, the government body is called IP Australia. And you can actually apply to register a trademark through IP Australia. Now, what registration gives you is protection on a national register, and there are similar registers in other jurisdictions around the world. The US has one, the UK has another, Canada has one, New Zealand has one. Most countries have these. And basically what registration gives you is protection over that trademark, so that if you want to protect it, and I'll go through some examples a bit later of people who've done this in well-known businesses, you can protect your trademark by having it registered. And what that gives you is it gives you the force of legal protection under the Trademarks Act to be able to stop other people from using it. So what does that mean? That means that you can use this legislation and the powers that you're given in that legislation to be able to stop other people from using the trademark in your business. So that can be very powerful. If you don't get it registered, then that can also cause a lot of problems. As I said before, the complex process of registration has actually been simplified in recent times, I should say, and the registration is still an important thing to get around. So I want to give you an example here. A client of ours runs a baking business in South East Queensland. They built up their business to having about 20 to 30 stores, very substantial business. They came to us wanting to franchise the business. So they were in phase 7, which is expansion, franchising and licensing of the business leader lifecycle. And they wanted to franchise. So one of the first things you've got to do with franchise is make sure that the symbol, the brand, is protected through registration. This business had been operating for 20 years. The client had spent literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, building up a brand and reputation for that business and brand. So he had a valuable asset that he could trademark to other people. However, he didn't get it registered. Now, because he didn't get it registered, to start the franchise process, we started to apply for registration. And guess what happened? He got knocked back initially. The reason being that the name of his bakery, and I won't name names, but his name of his bakery was similar to other names around Australia. So we had to go through an extensive process of submissions to IP Australia to show that that my guy owned the trademark and that he should have it registered. Luckily for him, we were able to get it registered. There are other examples I could give where people who literally spent 20, 30 years building their business could not get their trademark registered because they didn't get it registered early enough. So that's one of the reasons that we put intellectual property in phase 5. Sure, when you start a business, you might not have the money to start up and register a trademark, but as your business expands and grows, that's something that can often get lost and forgotten about. So we try to have a realistic point in time when we do it. So that's what registration is of a trademark. So the process. So the process of registering a trademark is one of those ones that you do through the government agency, IP Australia. So first of all, you've got to determine that you have a trademark that you want to register. You need to do and understand the different classes, which I'll go through in a moment, of trademarks, because when you register a trademark, you register it in a class. We'll go through that in the next slide. You then search the online trademarks register to make sure, which is a publicly available search engine, to make sure that you can have that registration. There's nothing else that's registered that might impinge. Another good thing to do at this stage is to actually do a Google search. This is what IP Australia do. They do a search to make sure that no one else has a similar business. This is where the example I was giving you before fell down. He didn't want us to do any searches, and he found that he was stuck with this business and the name without actually having anything to protect. So then you make the application. Now the application, it used to be that you'd make it, and people who have done this before know this, you used to do an application fee, and then you did a registration fee. Now IP Australia just take a registration fee. Then it goes through a registration and examination process. So this is where the examination process is conducted by an official from IP Australia. They will basically examine the trademark and make sure that what you're registering should be unique. So as I said before, that obviously the first place is search the registered trademarks. Then they do searches to see what else exists. There's so much information, there's so many options out there these days that you need to be sure over what you're doing. Just check and see. I thought I saw a question pop up, but I didn't. So then it goes through that examination stage. So this is where the path diverge between the two in the process. So you can either go from here to registration. So if there's no problems, then it gets registered and then it gets advertised. But if the IP Australia finds that there's a problem with the registration, so they're not satisfied that your classes are correct, they're not satisfied that your trademark is unique enough, then they can actually come back to you and make you make submissions about why you should get the trademark and why it should be registered. So that's can be a very lengthy process and can cause a lot of problems. It can also be quite costly because we need to prepare actual submissions that show why you're entitled to that trademark, why another competing trademark may not actually have the protection that you're going for. So if your submission is if you've been forced to make a submission and your submission is accepted, then you can start that process and get it registered. If it's not accepted, then you do have the option to actually go and make verbal submissions in front of it's like a court process down in usually in Canberra for Australia, and you can actually get that process looked at and actually have a hearing as to whether or not your trademark is unique enough and meets the criteria for registration. Once it's registered, it does get advertised. So it gets advertised in a journal, which is publicly available, and that journal goes through and shows you all of the registered trademarks, and people have an opportunity to object. So these days it's less common, depending on the type of trademark and how blatant you are, because normally IP Australia would have picked up on any problems beforehand, but people have the opportunity to object at that point. Once it gets past the objection stage, then you've got a trademark that's registered for 10 years. Now that registration is usually from the date that you made the application and the 10-year process. One thing that I think is very important that a lot of people miss is making sure that your address remains up to date with IP Australia. So if you have a trademark registered, then and you move offices or you move location, you have it at your house and you move, then making sure that that's updated is important to make sure that you don't miss out on the notices, because if you miss the 10-year deadline, then you're forced to actually go and get it registered again, which can be a bit of a painful process. So I mentioned before that one of the key steps here is to make sure that you have your trademark registered in classes. So what do I mean here? Well, registering when you register a trademark, you've got to select one of 45 goods or services classes for the trademark to be registered in. Now, why is that? The reason for that is that trademarks are registered by the type of business that you're doing. So arguably, you could have a trademark in one class, and you could not have a trademark in another class, and someone could have a similar trademark in that name. Now, there are 45 classes. I'm not going to go through them all today, but I wanted to give you a snapshot of the different types, just so that you're aware of them, because there are differences. Now, after this, I am going to go through some examples. So I'll pull off some commonly known business names, just to show you the types of trademarks and how the process can work. But I think the main point I want to make here is that don't just guess the classes. There's a list of classes on the IP Australia website, but those lists are not all inclusive. There's actually a search facility that you can use on that website, and if you're interested, you can email me and I'll send that through. But the actual classes that you should go in can be very different to the ones that you think you should go in. So, and I'm going to run through these and just give you an idea. So class 1 is a goods class, and I should say that the first 34 are goods. So these are books and mouses and pens and things like that. And the last 11 are services, so legal services, accounting services, those type of things. So class 1 is chemicals used in industry, science, and photography, as well as agriculture, horticulture, and forestry, unprocessed artificial resins, unprocessed plastics, and manures. So you can see just from that first class the broad range of things that can be covered by one class. And so you need to determine which actual classes. And the beautiful thing about the search facility that's now on the IP Australia website is that you can type in the types of things that you're doing, and it will give you a broad range of classes that you can possibly register in. So class 8 is described as hand tools and implements, hand operated, cutlery, sidearms, and razors. So you can see that there's a theme coming in there of things that are used by hand that goes into class 8. Class 12, vehicles, apparatuses for locomotion by land, air, or water. So again, you can see with class 12 that the general description is really talking about vehicles. Class 31, again, this is a goods class, is raw and unprocessed agriculture, aquaculture, horticultural, and forestry products, raw and unprocessed grains and seeds. Again, that's similar to what we talked about at the beginning one, class 1, where it talked about agriculture as well. So different classes can have can overlap and have similar products in each. One thing to note though is that when you do apply for registration, the fee that you pay IP Australia is dependent on the number of classes that you register in. So depending on whether or not you pick from their list or you register your own list, which is more expensive, you get charged by the number of classes. So you can't just go, I want registration in all 45 classes. That's not going to work. They're not going to let you do that. So what you need to do is pick the ones that actually apply to you and actually apply to protecting what you want in your business. So I said that there were 34 classes of goods. There are 11 classes of services, from 35 to 45. And these include class 43, services providing food and drink and temporary accommodation. So you can imagine what that might provide for hotels or things like that. Class 44, medical services, veterinary services, hygienic and beauty care for human beings or animals, agriculture, horticulture, or forestry services. So I've included that one just to show you that for some areas, we talk about agriculture again. Well, that's in class 44. It's also potentially in class 31 and also in class 1. So there are multiple different classes. You need to make sure that what you're protecting is the right class for your business, and then make sure that it's cost effective for what you want. So you need to make sure of what you're actually going to register in and making sure that what it is the right one. Because the other thing to remember, and I said this before, was that with the classes, the different IP Australia examiners will look at what you actually do. So if you're trying to register in 10 different classes, they're going to look through and see what you actually do, and they won't let you register in classes that don't relate to your business. So that's a very important thing to realise. You can't just go and say, I want the McDonald's trademark in all 45 categories. You're not going to get it. You have to be very particular, and you need to be particular as to what you're actually getting registered. So, that's where you need to get advice and make sure that what you're doing is right for you. I'll just check to see if we've got any questions. None yet? All right. So I said that I wanted to give some examples of some trademarks. Now, the reason I'm doing this is just to give you a flavour of the kind of thing that you might want to do. So, and the classes and the tactics that companies use to actually register trademarks in different classes. So, McDonald's, probably the best example. Everyone knows the McDonald's golden arches. You'll see that those words are actually trademarked. Now, that was trademarked back in April 1968 and was registered in class 29. And it's a word, so as I said before, you can register words or symbols. So you register, you'll see that it's been recently updated and its renewal is 2023. The class and the goods and services and the class that's been selected is class 29, French fried potatoes, malted milks, and milkshakes milk. Now, I haven't got a screenshot of this, but McDonald's, when I type in McDonald's, they have hundreds of trademarks. Now, the reason for that is that they've been very particular to protect what they actually need for their business in different areas. So you'll see that the owner is an American company that owns the trademark in Australia, which is fine. Entities from all over the world can own trademarks, but what they protect is the classes. So the next one I wanted to show you were the words McDonald's M with the man clown, which is Ronald McDonald, as we all know. This one is to show you that the different types of trademarks that you go for. Again, you'll see that they've only gone for Class 32. Now, Class 32 is actually beers, mineral and aerated waters, and other non-alcoholic beverages, fruit beverages and fruit juices, syrups and other preparations for making beverages. They've gone for all goods included in this class. Now, this is an old trademark. We'll just switch back here and see that it's from 1977. You can't just register it for that anymore, but you can see that why they've protected it that way. The last one I want to show you is another well-known one, is Subway. So Subway is obviously a well-known brand and trademark. It has businesses all over Australia and franchises, and they've trademarked their symbol Subway. It was registered in 2000. It's in Class 42. Now, Class 42 is very broad, but it includes restaurant, catering, cafe services, including the preparation of sandwiches and other takeaway meals, the provision of food, beverages or food items for consumption on and off the premises. So you can see that they've gone quite broad and to protect their Subway logo. So that's just some examples of trademarks and how you can use them. The best thing to do is get some advice. Understanding the process is very difficult, and making sure that you get the right registration, the right class, is pretty important to make sure that you're protected going forward. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today was international registration. Now, as I said before, there are trademark registers in all Western countries around the world. Now, that's important because understanding that you can get it registered in other countries means that you can be protected in those countries for your trademark. So there's basically the way to do it is, or there's two ways of doing it. Firstly, you can actually apply to register the trademark directly in the country, which from the examples that I showed you would be what McDonald's and Subway have done for the US entities. You can also use what we call the WIPO Treaty. So it's the World Intellectual Property Organization Treaty, a thing called the Madrid Protocol, that actually lets you apply, where you have a trademark in one country that's a signatory to the protocol, to actually register that in other countries that are also signatories to that protocol. So the advantage there is once you've got it registered, say in Australia, you can send it off to England, you can send it off to America, you can send it off to all sorts of other countries that have the same protections. I'm not going to go through the list of all the countries. That's we'll be here all day, and you're not here to listen to me say the countries' names. But essentially, what it does is it makes sure that the trademark can be protected in those other countries, and it also makes sure that you can be given a streamlined process. So there are application fees that apply, but once you make those application fees, that's it. The process runs much like the registration process. So I did one where we were registering a trademark in Switzerland and the UK and America, and what meant was the client just had to pay one fee, and we applied to all these other countries and got his trademark registered for his business. So that's international registration. So I'll just switch off off the slides. Look, thank you very much for watching this, our first episode of Phase 5, Protecting Intellectual Property. As I said before, my name's Jeremy Stretton, if you don't know who I am. I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to watch this show. All the information that I've given here is the information that we give to try and help business owners to get a better understanding of their business. So I guess the final thing I'd like to just pass on is that please feel free to ask Craig or I questions. You can either private messages through Facebook. You can send us messages through the BLL Facebook page. We're happy to answer questions. We're happy to provide advice and to help people so that we can ensure the future success of their business. Finally, at the beginning of the show, we showed a code word, and I mentioned at the beginning. So that code word, if you private message that to us through the VLL Facebook page, and the first 3 people to do that will get a free consultation. And it can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about intellectual property, although it can be. I'm happy to help out and give that. Free hour consultation about any of the legal matters in your business. Something we normally charge $3.30 for, but for people who take the time to watch our videos and to get a better understanding of their business, we're happy to provide that to the first 3 people who do that. So thank you very much. We'll be back on Monday for Fast Fix Mondays, another interesting topic about intellectual property. And I wish you all the success for your business. And if you, as I said, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks very much.